Good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to the October 20th, 2015 Vista Planning Commission meeting. Will you please rise and join Commissioner Carroll in the pledge, please?
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Turley, will you lead us through the roll call, please?
Commissioner Carroll.
Here.
Chairman Kramer.
Here.
Commissioner Fleming.
Here.
Commissioner Garrettson.
Here.
Commissioner Jekyll.
Here.
Commissioner Rosler is absent, and Commissioner Looney.
Here.
Thank you.
Commissioners, before you have the minutes from the October 6th meeting. I'd like, if there's any comments, if there's any changes to be made, Commissioner Carroll, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I do have one thing I wanted to slightly clarify, and that's under the heading of Commissioner Questions to the Applicant. It's the second item. And the item says there was a large tree in the drainage swale, and I think as it is a little ambiguous as to what the issue was. The issue with the tree is that it was a place for vagrants and trash to gather. So if we could add some sort of additional language, that was issued to the tree. Not that there's a tree there; is that the tree was a focal point for bad stuff. Thanks.
Any other comments? If not, is someone willing to make a motion, please? Commissioner Garrettson.
I would move acceptance of the minutes with the changes that Commissioner Carroll mentioned.
Commissioner Jekyll.
I will second it.
Thank you. Please vote. Please note that the minutes were approved and seconded with the changes recommended by Commissioner Carroll, with Commissioner Rosler being absent. Thank you. All right. Mr. Ressler, are there any agenda changes this evening? Thank you. All right. Right now, before we begin our two presentation for this evening's meeting, is anyone here to speak on any item that is not on this evening's agenda? Okay, I didn't have any speaker slips, but I wanted to check, so we will move on. The two items that we have before us this evening are early design review items. These are items that the Planning Commission will not be rendering a decision on this evening. It gives the opportunity of both the applicant, staff, and the Planning Commission to review the projects as they are without the applicant having to go through and put in a whole lot of dollars, creating a whole lot of documents that may or may not be approved. And so we found, and we've been, I think, pretty successful in the few that we've done so far, that it's a very good process. So we appreciate your coming out to also give your comments. There is one paragraph that I thought was important that came in our packet that I want to share with you that will apply for both items this evening to kind of give you an idea of what to expect. And it says, early design reviews provide an opportunity for the Planning Commission to review the initial application and provide comments to the project applicant. The property owners surrounding the project site within 500 feet and any others requesting such notice are notified of the meeting and provided an opportunity to comment. Following the public input, the Planning Commission is requested to provide any comments, critique, or concerns related to the initial proposal to the project applicant. The Commission's comments are advisory to the applicant and are intended to provide direction regarding further processing of the project application. Following the early design review meeting, staff will work with the applicant to address any concerns raised and may return to the Planning Commission to cover the progress of the application as necessary, prior to scheduling any project for any required public hearings. So just wanted to give you an idea of what to expect. So with that said, Mr. Ressler, will you lead us through DR1 211 Palm Drive project, please?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. Staff has received a preliminary proposal to develop 12 apartment units on a site located at 211 Palm Drive, which is located on the northwest corner of Palm Drive and Vista Village Drive. The site was acquired by the city back in the mid-90s as part of a right-of-way acquisition for the creation and relocation of Vista Village Drive. The project site is approximately 0.63 acres, maintains 3 parcels, and it's currently vacant land. The properties to the north of the site are developed with multifamily residential development apartments. The properties to the east along Vista Village Drive are developed commercially with strip retail. The properties to the south across Vista Village Drive are part of the downtown area and developed commercially. And the properties to the west are developed with single-family homes. The subject and surrounding properties are maintain a general plan land use designation of mixed use, which allows for commercial as well as residential uses up to 40 units per acre. The subject site as well as the surrounding properties maintain a zoning designation of Downtown Vista Specific Plan. Within the specific plan, the site is available for residential development with a maximum height of 4 stories and a maximum density of 40 units per acre. The proposal before you tonight proposes the development of 12 apartment units on the subject site. The development would include a variety of unit types, including live-work units, row housing, stack flats, as well as 1 single-family dwelling located on the northwest corner of the site. The development would include a studio unit as well as 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom units. The site plan has been configured to provide a total of 27 parking spaces, which would exceed the specific plan requirement, which is 26 spaces. Architecturally, the proposed development would maintain a contemporary architectural style. It would maintain buildings height of 2 to 3 stories, maintaining roofs that are considered butterfly shed type roofs. The apartment's development has been designed to maintain a village concept in terms of site layout, providing landscape opportunities as well as pedestrian walkways. In terms of exterior finishes, the proposed development would feature smooth stucco exterior finish, enhanced with concrete siding, vertical and horizontal wood siding, anodized corrugated metal panels, a white and two-tone colored or gray colored color theme, as well as accent colors to accent the modern design of the development. The applicant, Carter Lee, is here to provide you a thorough presentation in terms of the architectural style as well as the site layout. The early design review opportunity tonight is to allow the Planning Commission the time to review an initial project application and provide direction to the applicant. With that, staff is here to answer any questions, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Ressler. Are there any questions of staff before we hear from the applicant? Seeing none. Mr. Garrettson, please.
This property is presently owned by the city?
That's correct. It's actually in escrow, and it should close by the beginning of next month. I think it's November 8th. That's been held off so he can get, the applicant can get a response from the Planning Commission and feel comfortable with his approach.
Thank you.
Carter Lee, please. Please state your name and give your address for the record, please.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I'm sorry, my name and address? Is that
Please.
My name is Carter Lee, and my address is 113 Avenida del Reposo, Unit A, San Clemente, California, 92672.
Thank you.
As you heard, my name is Carter Lee, and I am the designer, builder, and should escrow close, keeping our fingers crossed, will be part owner in this project that does incorporate some of the elements of Vista Downtown. I've always wandered around Vista Downtown numerous times and really have enjoyed the downtown area, and have also enjoyed, I have very good friends of mine who live here in Vista. That was kind of how I found out about Vista, and have enjoyed the Moonlight productions a few times, and have certainly enjoyed they informed me the other day that I guess a while back it was known as the climatic wonderland, which is Vista. I thought that was very appropriate. One of my strong appeals to doing this project in this location is this kind of new kind of resurgence of downtown and this new kind of creative vibe that's happening in this new kind of social core to the city that's being developed in downtown. And it's my desire to kind of embrace that creative energy and try and enhance that with this particular project. I also want to say hats off to the city of Vista. I think it feels like you guys are doing a lot of work to try and bring some vitality and energy to the downtown area and make this a really great place. And my hats off to you, and it's exciting to see. As an infill designer and developer, and notice I said designer first, I have no interest in creating a big development, what I refer to as a big dig project here to try and maximize parking so that I can max out the full unit development count in this particular site. I'm more interested in finding a unique piece of property, developing a project that works with the contours of the site, and also creating a nice modern design building that has some wonderful environments for people to experience and enjoy. That's really why I do what I do. So let's take a quick look at the surrounding area. I know Michael kind of dove into this, but this will kind of give you a little more insight into my thinking of how I went through the layout of the site in the first place. So along Palm Drive, we have the single-family and multifamily units. Mostly what I feel are like single-family units, especially north as you get up a little bit further on Palm Drive. Across the street there, off Palm Drive, you have one of your interchanging public art exhibits. In a pocket park a little bit further to the east. Obviously, as we work up Vista Village Drive there, we have the retail and commercial aspects of downtown. Heading up North Citrus Avenue, we have a mix of single-family that are kind of directly across from the site, and then as we get further up, there's a lot of multifamily units in there as well. And of course, one of my things that I really like too is you're close enough to the transportation center. It's walkable to the transportation center in Vista. So here's a quick street view of the site itself. And when I came across the site, there are a few things that really appealed to me on this site. And the first being that kind of the pad itself, there's there's a steep incline right there at street level. So why this is so appealing to me is because it really lends itself well to a residential project in that it already elevates the building above kind of the flow of traffic, and it is high enough also to still give some privacy to the units for the pedestrian traffic walking up Vista Village Drive as well. The other thing that appealed to me as you go up Palm Drive, the multifamily units that are on Palm Drive sit dramatically above the grade level of this particular site. So I didn't really have to worry about sight lines of buildings across the way. It kind of gave me a lot of flexibility in terms of what I could do on that particular site. A couple of the other amenities that kind of appealed to me too is we've got this kind of grove of palm trees right there on the corner of Vista Village Drive and Palm Drive. And then there's this really nice tall, what I believe is an acacia tree on the southwest corner as well, which I think will play in well to try and soften some of the development on that side and kind of create a natural privacy screen between the new development and the existing single-family units across the street. So now that we've kind of taken a look at the contextual elements around the site, we can take kind of a look at the preliminary site plan and my thought processes as I was going through this. And as I had mentioned before, along Palm Drive, I really kind of feel like this is more kind of the residential corridor. Didn't seem like there's as much traffic coming down this corridor. And so I'm placing all my, what I would kind of refer to as family-oriented uses on Palm Drive. So we've got the single-family, the standalone single-family home at the north end of the property. Then we do have a studio unit there, and then further down, kind of pushed down and off to the side in a location that doesn't actually have any buildings across the street are the taller 3-bedroom units. And these structures are a little more vertical so that I can get some sight lines out over the 2-bedroom and 1-bedroom units that are there along Vista Village Drive. Along Vista Village Drive, we have the row houses, which Michael was alluding to, and these are the 2-bedroom, 2-story units. And I've twisted these at an angle to try and give a little more interest to the architecture as you're driving down Vista Village Drive, as well as it gives me the opportunity to kind of create some kind of private pockets between the buildings in the angles there, as well as, I should have mentioned this prior, I mean, one of the beautiful things on this site is being elevated and looking out over the city and through the valley, trying to orient those vistas or views from those units towards the overlook of downtown. On the corner, the southwest corner there, which is the corner of Vista Village and North Citrus Avenue, that's where I've placed the live-work units, which are then kitty corner to some small offices that are on the opposite corner there, which are just below the site picture that you're seeing there. And this is to help them feel a little more connected to the commercial activity that is already part of downtown. You've got the 2 major crosswalks there. So it's really kind of to try and link those 2 areas together. These units are also angled in the orientation similar to the other units to try and keep that architectural rhythm that it's already been established. And then this also helps create some space there. You can see on the plan there, the big green dot there, which represents the existing tree. So I want to try and, like I said, be able to try and maintain that tree if I can, just to, again, soften the development from that side of the project. Pedestrian circulation, we have coming really 2 ways to get down to the main crossing points there on Vista Village Drive. There is an existing mural on a wall that is at the back side of just behind the live-work units. So I created a passageway along that wall into the parking lot and across the top. There's also a passageway through the parking lot past the kind of entry courtyards between the 3-bedroom units and the 2-bedroom units, a passageway through there to connect to that corner of Vista Village and Palm Drive. So referring to the kind of site plan map that we have on there and the direction of the arrow, you can see that we're looking at the primary elevation as you would see the project from Vista Village Drive. Because of the kind of sloping nature to the site, the concept here was really kind of, and Michael had alluded to it, the concept here was really to kind of create a modern hillside village, similar to kind of when we think of a hillside village, you can look at that picture kind of there in the lower left. Think of kind of the nice kind of layering of architecture as it kind of grows out above and around things. You get a nice layering of compositions and elements. And this allows for some really very interesting kind of what I refer to as kind of peekaboo architecture, because as your point of view changes within, as you're moving along Vista Village Drive, things will unveil themselves and then will be kind of hidden from view. So you should get this kind of dynamic viewing of elements as you're moving along that major artery. So looking at the elevation, what we're looking at here is, again, referring to the plan. You've got your live-work units there on the left-hand side, and then back behind, you're looking at the single-family unit and the studio unit. Kind of the open space that doesn't really have anything in there is where the parking area is and where we would have landscaping to kind of soften it. So I didn't really put any landscaping in any of these, just really kind of more focusing on the architecture at this point in time. We have the the two-bedroom units that create kind of horizontal line there on the right. And then back behind, you can see, again, that kind of nice vertical element of the three-bedroom unit that looks out over those two-story units. The pictures that you're seeing referenced there are basically architectural elements that happen on Vista Village Drive, and within the downtown area. And these are elements that are expressed in the design. Obviously, the butterfly roof doesn't really need much explanation. You can obviously see that. The vertical element that you see in the second photo over by the entry these again are very classic kind of modern architecture design forms. Are expressed in where I'm using the color accents. If you look at like the live-work building, you'll see a nice green accent there that's creating this nice vertical element. Or back behind in the single family and the studio units, you see a nice band of vertical color. And that's kind of where that kind of detail came from, was kind of these classic elements that are found within the Vista downtown area. The middle image there, or the third image over, this is actually Michael had a photograph of that building. It's literally across the street. I really like this kind of grill work detail, and that's sort of starting to show up in those copper details you see there, kind of in the handrail detail there on the two bedroom units. And haven't totally worked out that detail, but this, as the design progresses, I plan to kind of use that detail in various areas within the design. Again, now looking at the site plan and the direction of the arrow, you can see that we're actually standing on Palm Drive. We're looking south now, downhill to Vista Village Drive. And the thing I wanted to point out on this side is as you move up the hill, you move closer to the existing single-family homes within Palm Drive. So that's really why at the kind of northernmost part of this project, I'm creating this single-family home to try and create that transitional element between the kind of more vertical elements that are at the beginning of the project into, as you transition into more of the single-family area, that transition kind of happens in this project as well. So you're kind of moving into what would be kind of more the single-family home area. As we move down the hills, as I alluded to, there's the more vertical element of the three-story bedroom unit. And you can see now how I'm trying to look over those units that are down, that line up directly on Vista Village Drive. The specific plan for the transit district calls for contemporary design character utilizing modern building forms, materials, and colors. And Michael, again, had alluded to this. So the finishes, you have the color board up there, I'm looking at would be primarily white or off-white smooth stucco finishes. As I mentioned, the vertical color accents that you can see there. Stained wood to try and kind of give a natural detail to some of the architecture and is very kind of a contemporary design element you're seeing nowadays. The perforated copper panels, which you're kind of seeing there, are the copper elements that you're seeing in the elevation there, are there for a couple of reasons. One, to try and give some nice kind of vertical elements, but because of the perforations, can create some nice kind of translucent privacy to some of the areas in the buildings, and that's how I'm looking to use that. Also, is in the kind of the second picture over there from the right, is the corrugation. You can see how it kind of picks up some nice shadow lines, that I'm trying to get some nice shadow details in some of the elements within the design. So that's what we're looking to do there. Plus, with the anodizing metal finish, I am looking to have quite a bit of uplighting in some of these areas, and I think you'll get a nice kind of sparkle at night as these panels are uplit at night. Shed roof details are creating some nice deep overhangs for shade, and will support some lighting for some of the outdoor spaces. So here is the elevation that we have on the corner of Vista Village Drive and Palm Drive. This is actually kind of my favorite view of the project. This is what you would see as you're heading west on Vista Village Drive. And one of the reasons I like this view so much is it gives you a really, really great look of how that kind of layering of that kind of hillside village feel I'm trying to achieve there as you're kind of capturing all these kind of building views as you look out across the site. And this gives you a really good view of what I'm trying to accomplish there with the three-bedroom unit looking over, again, those front row house units. The other element you're seeing here, again, this is kind of a prominent location for the corrugated copper material. And this serves two purposes in this location. The first as being, when I said kind of creating this kind of more translucent privacy screen for the entry to those one-bedroom units, which are just behind that panel. But also to create a nice kind of backdrop to the composition of what is not shown in this elevation, which is that grove of palm trees that are sitting there on the corner, which I intend to keep or kind of move around or whatever to kind of really kind of maximize that corner and that kind of composition, because I think we have the opportunity to create a nice iconic element on that corner with the backdrop of this kind of copper orange panel with all the queen palms sitting in front, and then certainly at night lighting all of that, I think would be quite dramatic. The images below are, again, just some colors and details which are found just in the surrounding area there. Obviously, the theater is quite iconic. And then there's another view in there that I found of looking kind of past your art installation towards the site. So you'll see that this building will kind of act as a backdrop to this particular corner. And finally, we have a view here of what the completed project might look like with some more kind of landscaping dropped in there. And we're looking here at the live-work unit, which is on that corner of Citrus Avenue and Vista Village Drive. And it does face directly across the street to kind of the commercial and retail activity of downtown, which is the link to the live-work, and is the reason why that live-work unit is actually sitting there on that particular corner. The building is more vertical in nature and does act as the landmark feature kind of on this end of the lot. With the other kind of three-story building on the east side, they do kind of create kind of the bookends, if you will, of the project, and kind of link visually the whole project to all the building clusters together. The butterfly shed roof on this primary structure and others, particularly on this structure because it is kind of standing more by itself, creates a nice kind of cap to the vertical nature of the architecture. And I liken it to being very similar to a palm tree. If you think of a palm tree, you've got this nice vertical element. the fronds at the top create this kind of nice visual cap to kind of contain the whole kind of verticalness of the palm tree. So you have the kind of architectural palm tree at one end, and then you would have the kind of real palm trees at the other. So I have laid out here what I think is both a sensitive and unique solution to the surrounding community that I feel works with, in concert with the community, and is a nice composition of buildings against open space and on this kind of gently sloping site. I realize, and I am very sensitive to the fact that this is a highly visible property within the city of Vista. And I consider it both an honor and a privilege to have this opportunity to be able to design something that will be sitting here. It's my hope that you will embrace this more contemporary design and allow it to complement the resurgence of downtown Vista as a vital urban hub for people to come and interact, for creative energy, and of course, economic activity. As a creative, it is that creative energy that speaks to me the most, and I've tried to capture the essence of that in both the dynamic nature of the architecture and within the volumes of the indoor and outdoor spaces. I want to thank you for this opportunity to present my take on the design, and I hope that I have given you a little bit of insight, a peek behind the curtain, if you will, of my thought processes and the project design.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee. Commissioner Carroll, do you have questions for Mr. Lee?
Yes, Mr. Lee. Thank you for the comprehensive presentation. I can tell you've put your heart into this design, and but I do have a couple questions. For the Building 12, the single-family unit, will that be subdivided out with a parcel map, or will it and sold, or will it be retained with with the same ownership as the apartments and continuously rented?
At this point in time, it is the intention to keep it as part of the complex and keep it rented. I don't believe it's sitting on a piece in a large enough parcel there to be able to kind of subdivide it out. I mean, I guess you could do a condo map on it and potentially, separate it that way. But at this point in time, there's no plan to do that. It's being planned to rent with the rest of this.
Okay. So building 1, which doesn't really show on here, but it's kind of ghosted in,
right,
dashed in as this over parking unit. Looks like it's a couple of feet off of the house. Is that right?
I don't remember what the exact distance is, but yes, it is very close.
So I'm just wondering how that came about to be at that location and perhaps not farther west over those parking spaces to the west between building 12 and 10 and 11. Where
I guess because I was just trying to kind of create, again, I didn't want to kind of line up this kind of big, large, massive buildings along Vista Village Drive. I wanted to kind of create this more of, you've got some buildings here, and then, there's this open space, and hey, look at that, there's some things that are happening behind that. And then, wow, there's this building over here too. So it was really more to try and kind of mix up the kind of building clusters, if you will, and to, again, kind of, I wanted to also try and kind of keep that center section open so that I do have some views from that single-family home, from the patios and decks that I have kind of laid out there in the floor plan. So you've got kind of, again, this open view that's sort of framed by the tall live-work building on the one side, and then the two-story buildings on the other side, and kind of whatever architectural element I kind of come up with there. That's those represented by those squares there on the plan. So that was really more just to kind of try and pull all that stuff back and leave that space open along Vista Village Drive.
Okay. Has there been any thought about some type of outdoor gathering area or outdoor usable area for the tenants?
There has, well, I mean, clearly you try and think of those sort of things as you're laying things out, and I mean, because of all the parking, and I don't know, maybe I can pull one of those out to try and carve a little more space out. But I was really trying to think that entrance there between where the tall, 3-story, 3-bedroom units are, and there as you just kind of come off the parking lot, trying to do something, within that area that could be a nice gathering space, and just kind of say, hey, this is you're here, you're now kind of entering into this kind of residential area within this development. And certainly I can kind of re-look at that and try and create some space there.
Okay. Well, I think that's the only questions I have right now. I'm a little concerned about the proximity of Building 1 right up against that single-family dwelling, but I'll let some other people chime in.
Commissioner Fleming, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got several little things here back and forth, some positives and some negatives.
No worries.
Off the top of my head, the first thing I'm thinking about is, to follow up on what Commissioner Carroll was just talking about, is the area where they could gather. I believe we have a deal where over 10 apartments, they need some sort of amenities in there. So I would, and I didn't see any, so I'm sure you'll be coming something, the staff will work with you to make that happen.
I wasn't aware of that, yeah.
Okay, that was the one of the things. The next thing is are these all market rate? Are there going to be any low income in here?
There is no low income at this point in time plan for that. They were all market rate.
Outstanding. Along that same line, on the 3 bedrooms, one of the things I noticed when I was looking at the floor plans, they look interiorly dividable. I don't know how else to say it, where you could wind up with more than one family living in this 3-bedroom house.
Right.
The way the bathroom's set up, the way the floor plan lays out, that concerns me greatly.
Okay.
I don't really know what you're going to do to correct that on a 3-bedroom, but if you could come back with some change in the floor plan that might make that a little less stand out to me,
Okay.
would be very big.
Okay.
Okay? Let's see. I love the design. I love the fact that the artistically look of it. I love. We're always asking for something different, something special. I'm not crazy about the color, the dark coloring of it. I would like to see some lighter colors there.
Okay.
But as far as the copper, the different textures, the thing you've got here, I kind of like the design of it, but I would like it lighter, a little bit brighter. And speaking of lighter, the lighting for the property itself.
Right.
What do you have in mind there? What's going on?
I really haven't gotten that far, but I know that the lighting is important to me. Certainly, I see using a lot of uplighting within the property. Right now, kind of in the back of my mind, I see so those 4 kind of squares that you see there on the site plan that are kind of just, I guess that would be southeast of the parking.
Oh, yeah, I see down there.
I sort of envision those being backlit light structures, basically, or internally lit light structures, to again kind of highlight that one right there at the entry point to the majority of the units, and just to kind of create an interesting kind of light architectural element within the space.
I look forward to that. I think you can do a lot with the lighting there. You don't want
I agree.
You don't want it so bright downtown, but the lighting should be for the safety. Plus, you could make it for the appearance too. Quite a bit
Absolutely.
there.
Absolutely.
Let me see here. I had trouble counting 26 parking spaces. I must have missed it. I went through there several times and I found 25. Is there one there's one that's covered, right? Somewhere? Oh, okay. Okay, okay. That looks like about what I've got right now, so, yeah, that'll work. Thank you.
Cool. You're welcome.
Commissioner Jackal, please.
Thank you. Mr. Lee, there is so much I really love about this.
Thank you.
I really love the whole Hilltown idea for that piece of property. You have obviously paid a lot of attention to the topography as well as the neighborhood. You aren't just viewing this as some piece of land that you're going to bulldoze flat and
No.
stick something up. And I can't tell you how glad I am about that. I appreciate your recognition of the mural. First, I was feeling very sad that that was going to be so covered up, but you're leaving ways to glimpse it, and with the pathways you describe, ways to kind of bring it into your project. So I like that. I think you have cited the structures very nicely and with imagination, rather than just lining them up. And I like that. I like the varying heights that you've planned and the sight lines that the residents there will be able to have over the city. I like that very much. My questions came about this kind of common open space area for the residents, which I'm also balancing with keeping room for enough visitor parking. Do we have visitor parking?
We do, yeah. Yeah, that was included in that total. I think there's 4 visitor parkings in there, I think is what it was, if I remember correctly.
Okay. My one however is I like everything about your design of the buildings, but the butterfly roofs. And I don't know where these butterfly roofs came from, but I'm not nuts about them. And this is the second project in a month or something that we've had with these. So if they're just my opinion, but. And then moving down in the process, when you're ready to come back to us again, you have, in essence, 4 clusters of buildings.
Yes.
I wonder if it's possible for you to put story poles up for each cluster to show the maximum height that each cluster will have, so we can kind of walk by and imagine, okay, so the building's going to be this tall, this tall. I don't know if it's possible to mandate that, but I really think it would help not only us, but the neighborhood to understand.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Garrettson, please.
I would echo what has been said about the amenities, because even though you're across the street from a school, there's almost no access to the playground and so forth there, especially, during school hours and even after school hours because of security reasons. There is a Wildwood Park, which is real close by, but that really, really concerns me. The other concern I have, the parking along Vista Village Drive. Is that going to be covered some way, or is that just going to be open? In other words, you have cars that are elevated, 4 feet above the sidewalk?
Yeah, actually, I think that's.
And if they're not
6
covered,
feet.
what people are looking at are the bottoms of cars. I think that's going to create a real ugly situation there. It's going to really detract from the whole project, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely am inclined to agree with you. I guess I was thinking I would handle that more with potentially landscaping as opposed to some sort of barrier per se. But I can certainly look at, I mean, maybe we take some of that perforated corrugated material and maybe pull that down to kind of create some sort of architectural detail down there too, or something else. But yes, I can certainly take a look at that.
And did I hear you correctly that you're going to try to keep all the palms that are there, even if you have to move them?
Yes, that is my intention. I am a Queen Palm fan, so yes, I
think that'll be huge.
I do think
for
they're
the
nice.
neighbors.
And obviously, I mean, it kind of seems like a no-brainer to try and play up the fact that you're on Palm Drive with palm trees. You know, so it seems like a natural to me.
Is there a deck or patio with every unit?
There is, yes. So there's outdoor space connected to every unit, and I think the smallest one I have is like 8 by 10. So most of them I try and create very large outdoor spaces. I mean, especially here in Southern California, people are living outdoors just as much as they are indoors, sometimes even more. So I definitely like pulling that outdoor space into the indoors. And vice versa. And certainly the transitional spaces between those usually have large, sliding glass surfaces. So again, you get this kind of natural transition from one space to the other.
A washer and dryer in every unit?
There is washer and dryer in every unit, yes.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Looney, please.
I hope you'll be patient with me because I have several comments.
Absolutely, no worries.
I'm basing most of my questions upon the design guidelines that have been adopted by the city. First off, regarding the site design, between your buildings, I think it's 2.3 and 4.9, if I look at the scale on the drawing, those two structures are less than 10 feet apart from each other. And if one of these units is 3 stories in height, that creates a very uncomfortable space. Your scale shows the drawing at 1 inch equals 10. Maybe it's supposed to be 1 to 20. If it is at 1 and 20, we're still only about 15 feet apart between the roof overhangs. And again, if we're looking at a 3-story structure, I think that needs some more work, or I think you need to pay attention to the spaces between those 2 structures. One for light, for circulation, and just the comfort of walking through that. One of the other points regarding the site is our city guidelines say that when a proposed development is located on the corner, the site plan and the placement of those structures is to open that corner up. In the plan that's been proposed, we've got a structure adjacent to the setback line. So we're deviating basically from the guidelines that have been set up by the city. That may or may not be an issue with staff, but it is a concern that I have because it's such a predominant corner. That
Which corner are we referring to, I guess?
It's the corner of Palm and Vista Way.
Okay.
So it's the most eastern corner. So that's a concern. Another issue on site, and this is a personal item, I really don't like seeing trash enclosures as I enter a piece of property. I think with a little bit of design effort, you can better position that thing. Let's tuck it away where it's not seen. One of the other issues on the site is parking. Looking at the drawings that have been presented, we've got 23 spaces that includes the ADA parking requirements within the main cluster of housing. Now, we have a 2-car garage on the single-family home.
Correct.
And I think it was just stated that there was an additional 1 or 2 parking spaces in front of that garage. Those will never be used by the tenants of the other building structures because it's a tandem parking structure. Those don't work, especially if I'm renting in building number 4 or 9, and I'm parking in front of someone's garage. There needs to be more parking that at least meets our minimum requirements in that common parking area for the units. The person that rents that home has a really sweet deal for parking.
Yes.
So I think we just need to find a better solution to that parking area. Let me deviate or go now to some of the architecture. You've got some applied copper panels, which I think can be a lot of fun, but these are rental properties, correct?
They are, yes.
So however you design the attachment of that copper panel to a frame, it's got to be done very well because it will be bent, it will be
Yes.
tugged on, and it will be abused.
Yep, understood, yeah.
so
I'm thinking I'm going to have to sand or put that in a U-channel or something like that to kind of
Yeah.
capture all that so that there aren't
So
any
that was a
kind of raw
concern.
edges. Yeah.
On the exterior materials, is this an actual stained wood product or is it a plastic laminate?
What I'm looking at this point in time, again, haven't had the buildings priced or any of that sort of thing, but my initial interest is doing a natural wood product
Okay.
that has been stained, yes.
Okay.
That is my intention at this point, yeah.
Okay. On the indoor spaces, you said that you were trying to pay attention to what the interior spaces were like. In all of the floor plans submitted, there is no linen storage in any level of any unit. I think that's going to hurt the value of the property. You've shown some open areas for possible closets, but you don't call them out as closets.
Right, yeah.
So I think there needs to be a little bit tweaking of the architecture there. One last item. On the palm trees. On the plans that were submitted, you had boxes around the palm trees. On the slides that were presented, those were not on the palm trees. So it appears that you have some type of an acrylic panel on the plans, on the palm trees.
I guess I'm not.
It would be similar to what you would see in Orange County, where they wrap the trunk of the palm tree with a lighted acrylic panel. It was shown on the drawings, on the paper drawings, but it wasn't presented that way in the slides tonight. And I just want to get some clarity on that. Trying to see if I can give you a...
So yeah, that's the detail I was referring to earlier, where, yeah, those four kind of squares that you're seeing there in the site plan, actually that's visible here, that doesn't have the kind of palm shape placed in it. It's just on those four towers that I'm considering creating as some sort of lighted structure with a palm kind of growing out of the top of it.
Okay. How are those maintained and cleaned?
Haven't gotten to that point yet. I mean, again, it's kind of all conceptual. I don't even know if it's going to be backlit acrylic on those, or I'm thinking potentially doing some pattern that's perforated into a metal panel, or yeah, I've already kind of consulted my landscape designer about kind of what we could do at the top, kind of creating a separate planter at the top for the potentially sago palm that would be sitting in the top of those things. Clearly, there's going to need to be attachment points to whatever material we attach to the metal framework that supports all that. But yeah, those details I haven't really focused on yet at this point in time. Just really had focused more on the kind of overall general feel of the project.
Okay. One last one. On the east elevation, on the slide that was presented this evening, you've presented a 3-story structure near the street. And we've got, at that point, about a 6 to 8 foot elevation change from the sidewalk to the building pad. So we end up with a very tall, flat structure very close to the sidewalk. again, I'm concerned about the verticality of that structure without having some offsets in the walls or in the balconies. So, I think
So you're talking about the live-work units, or because there's a lot of offsets on the elevations on those particular buildings. I mean, there's really just only one surface that's 2 stories high worth of flat surface.
well, this is the
I'm not
the 3-story structure that's on the southwest corner.
on the southwest corner.
You had a slide that was labeled east elevation. Yes. This one. What sheet is that? Is that live-work structure?
Yes, that is the live-work structure. So there are a lot of there's a lot of layering and kind of between the exterior decks and kind of there is an offset on one of those to push it back further at the third story because of the setbacks that are there. So there is a lot of kind of building manipulation that's going on there.
Okay. If that's the case, I'd like to see that delineated maybe a little bit clearer next time, because I'm concerned about that 6 to 8 foot pad elevation difference between the sidewalk and then a 3-story structure that's going to be in the neighborhood of 35 to 40 feet in height.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And I'm actually even thinking now potentially trying to. Well, I mean, because of handicapped access, I kind of have to leave the one at kind of grade level, but the building that's next to it, I'm thinking about trying to kind of pull that down a little bit, trying to sink it down into that a little bit to help alleviate that. So I'm kind of thinking about that.
Another question, basically for staff. There are 3 ADA compliant parking spaces. If none of the units are rented by disabled individuals, then we've lost 3 more parking spaces on this development. That's going to affect, again, the parking that we've been dealing with for months now, especially in developments like this. I just want to make sure that we don't end up with a shortage of parking spaces. Driving that street over the weekend, cars are lined on the sidewalks, parking. So, again, just for your benefit and for the marketability of this project, I think the parking solution needs to be reevaluated, particularly with those 3 ADA van spaces. Because if I park there, I'm going to get towed and I'm going to get fined. So where do I park for the unit in which I'm paying rent for?
Right.
That's my concern. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Mr. Lee, what is your vision for the live-work units?
I see them being kind of similar to my situation. I mean, I live at home and have a room that I call my office. I mean, I really see this as that sort of scenario, whether that be, I mean, I know there's a lot of kind of small legal offices kind of scattered throughout downtown area. So I guess in my mind, I see a lawyer potentially working there who, oops, sorry about that. He's got his, lives upstairs and then, goes downstairs to do his work, and kind of to be able to separate those two kind of activities a little better than just kind of walking down the hall into your bedroom sort of scenario. So.
Okay, so truly, it's there is this separation.
It's stairs, but yeah, literally the first floor is the workspace, and then the upper 2 floors are your living space.
Okay. I think this question was asked by one of my fellow commissioners, but I didn't hear the answer. Will there be property management on site?
There will be property management on site. It's probably going to be one of the tenants who is kind of the manager of the building, is how I look at that. I mean, I don't see physically having a leasing office on site, no.
And who do you expect the renters to be? So this will be market value, or are these in the two-bedroom, $2,400 kind of idea?
I don't see them, just based on the surrounding rents, I don't see them renting for quite that high.
Okay.
But I do see this probably being more kind of professional type people
Okay.
I'm seeing moving in
Okay.
here, just because of the style and the architecture there.
I truly love the way you took this piece of property and how you laid it out. I think it's brilliant.
Thank you.
Very nicely done. I'm not sure that the city might necessarily is ready for purple, but but
Colors are easy to change. So.
yes, that is easy.
Architecture becomes a little more difficult, but the colors are easy to change.
When you were giving your comments to us, telling us about the project and your vision and how you came up with this, you talked about a layering effect, and you showed a picture of maybe Greece, maybe southern Italy. Was wondering, is there any other property in that area that you might consider layering more units on later?
You mean a new piece of property in the end?
Yeah.
Oh,
Further up the
absolutely. I
street.
mean, I plan to, I don't see this as being my one and only project for Vista. Absolutely not.
Okay, so this could be the Carter Lee Palms area.
It could be, yes. It could be, yes.
Okay. That's all I have for right now. Commissioner Fleming, please.
Just very, very quickly here to add to what Commissioner Garrison said about that parking on where they're parking facing on Vista Way. You had talked about putting some sort of a railing across there. I think I agree with you more as far as that could be done with landscaping, and I think would look a lot better than to put in some sort of a firm wall or whatever. I think you could landscape that and make that better. And that would be easy enough to work out along with the trash enclosures to make sure. Plus, there was only, I think you ought to have more than one trash enclosure there if possible. Or
Okay.
just make it a little easier. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Commissioner Garrettson, please.
On the Citrus, on Citrus there's a sidewalk that goes down to Citrus, correct?
That is correct.
And I see some great crosswalks there. I can't see the picture here, and I don't remember. Are there crosswalks at Citrus or at Palm as well?
There is one, but it's on the far corner, so it's behind where the legend is there that talks of 3-bedroom units in it. But there is one existing.
It just goes across.
It just goes on the one
But
side.
there's none across
Yeah.
Palm, and there's none across Maine.
I think
Actually,
there is one
across
across Palm.
Maine.
One across Maine. Is that a problem? I mean, all these people that are there, are they going to walk across the parking lot to get to Citrus in order to cross Vista Way or Vista Village Drive? So you got most of the people are going to be living at the corner of Palm and Vista Village Drive.
Correct.
If they want to go to the Village Cafe or to the Avo Theater and so forth, aren't they going to go straight across Palm?
I really probably
Isn't that gonna be a
envisioning
problem?
people kind of coming out and walking along Vista Village and then coming down across is kind of the way I see. But like I said, there is a crosswalk, to the east, so they'd either have to come down and go across to the east and then down.
There is another crosswalk crossing Vista Village north to south, I guess east of the site. So there is another opportunity. Barely
Yeah.
see it underneath the
Yeah.
the legend, yes, sir.
It's just that all the aerial views, this was the one at Citrus was very prominent. The other one was kind of faded, so I wasn't sure, and I forgot to check that. But there are crosswalks there, right? Teenagers want to go over to the park or mom and dad want to walk the kid up to Wildwood Park, they can go across there. And
Correct.
thank you.
Okay, I've got some speaker slips. So some other people would like to make some comments. Steve McLean, would you please come up, give your name and address, and to the mic, please.
If I could, is this somebody else? Is this here?
Thank you.
How grateful I am that all of you are doing such a good job about asking questions for our good. So with that said, if you look on that little schematic I gave you of the parking, my impetus is that all of the buildings around there have landlords, I'll just put it that way, landlords that will book occupancy of 2 or 3 families in 1-bedroom units. And you made that point. I didn't catch your name, but you made that point very good. We have so much parking problems of landlords that have 2 and 3 families parking that they actually park near the Village Cafe. That little spot that's open on the street has people illegally parking over the curbs in front of the chains. And as you see in that picture, you see them going up and down the hill on that little driveway that branches off of Palm. That isn't legal parking, but people park there and the cars are pointed directly down into the schoolyard. If one of those breaks loose, it's not only going to take out Daryl Ives' new little podium down there that he has, but it's going to take out who knows what else. So to most of you that made this point, there's inadequate parking in this design. It's terrible that way. Sorry. It's terrible that way. And if I may, about the parking, and another gentleman, he's going to make the point, nobody's making any guarantees of what we're going to be left with as far as the palm trees or the plants that are around there. We've got kind of finally now a beautiful street again after years of neglect. It's finally coming back and looking very good. But to have apartments shoved up to the side with no guarantee of what's going to be left afterwards just kind of bothers me that way. So with that said, I'll just close on that and say thank you for your service. You've all asked very wonderful questions to protect us, but something's got... Oh, I forgot to say this. The other point that 2 of you made, there's got to be some sort of a play area for these kids because as Mr. Garrison pointed out, the schools are in lockdown. There isn't a place for them to play there. The kids in my neighborhood, they play right in the middle of the street or out in asphalt to 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night because they have working parents that aren't home. Kids all over the place. And we're going to add another unit here that's a mega unit with nothing for the kids to play in. Got to be addressed, in my opinion. Thank you much for your service.
Thank you very much, sir. Martin Carl, please. Please state your name and give your address for the record.
My name is Martin Carl. I live at 209 North Citrus Avenue, right there. The reason I'm coming before you today, I was wondering, back in 2000, the city encroached on my property, and they awarded me a judgment of an easement to my back property. And that goes from the northeast corner of my property to the existing chain link fence. And I was wondering, I haven't seen anything on the plans that indicate that there is this type of easement or my egress to my backyard.
I'm sorry? Yeah, once. The plans that we have are conceptual at this point, and once we get a submitted application for the site development plan, they'll be providing us all the details, including any existing easements and improvements and so forth. So those should be identified. They will be identified on the submitted application plans.
Perfect.
Yes, and also like to address that the wall that Steve painted so nicely is actually located 3 feet on my property, and that also was noted in the settlement. And you notice that on the east side of my property, from the northeast corner to the southeast corner, you have a V shape. And another, again, was part of the settlement was that it's supposed to be a straight line between those 2 points. And I'd like to have that all addressed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. Sarah Sprinks, please.
Hello, my name is Sarah Spinks. I live at 243 North Citrus. I'm also a public arts commissioner. This apartment, or this whole development, I really like it. I think the design is beautiful. I actually kind of like the colors. My house is actually that color purple, and my boss, Sam, his color is that green. I kind of think it would be cool to have more color going on. I don't know that maybe he's attracting people to live there that don't want to live in beige. They're going to be living and working where they're at. So I'm totally in favor of all of this. The only thing that I think we really need to think about is all the pedestrian paths connecting us to the downtown. It's already kind of dangerous. I've been hit nearly 3 times crossing the street with my son. I don't know what we can do to kind of make drivers more aware of the increasing foot traffic. People also just fly. They don't yield at the light going through Vista Way on Citrus. They just go right through. I've almost been hit a few times. You have to be really cautious. And then the crosswalk not connecting here at Vista Way and Palm is people are going to jaywalk. There's so much foot traffic in our neighborhood, and it's one of the reasons I love my neighborhood. I walk around it all the time. So thank you, and I'm excited to see where this development goes.
Thank you very much. Sam Phillips, please.
Hello, Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Sam Phillips. I live at 212 North Citrus, just on the corner of the map here. I really like the design also. He used a picture of my house in part of the slides. I like the colors and everything about it. My only concern is the parking. There is no parking on Citrus. There is no parking on Palm. And our neighbors that live next to us have a 3-bedroom, and there's 7 cars in that 3-bedroom. So even the 3-bedroom that had the lucky parking, that wouldn't be enough to accommodate that. So I think we need to look at the parking. Also, 2 houses up, there's a public easement. It looks like it goes straight through that garage. And probably 200 to 300 people every day cut through that part of that property down Citrus, just so they don't have to walk around Palm. And the people tried to put a gate up, and they tried to do a couple things, and the lady's car is just scratched all the way down the side. And the amount of people that go through there, is that still going to be open, or are we going to be channeling everyone through this little side area over here? I mean, there's probably 30 apartment complexes up on the hill. I made the walk all the way up to look. And so that's kind of a concern of the neighborhood now. I mean, there's already so many people walking past our house. Are these people going to go up to the easement so they can go up into the neighborhood that way and then go through our neighborhood also? So those are kind of my only concerns. I love the plan. I think it's great. I think that the color and all of the live work stuff would be cool. I just think that those items need to be addressed.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. I have no other speaker slips for this item. Okay. Commissioner Garrettson, please.
Yes, the speaker that was just up there, I'm not sure I know where you're talking about in terms of the easement. Do you have a pointer?
So right through this driveway here, this is a public easement. It's actually a lady's garage that's open, and she parks her car right here, and hundreds of people channel through this every single day. My home's here.
Walking?
Walking. It's supposedly a public easement. So the neighborhood's tried to close it down a lot, but the couple here has a young baby, and they live in that house. And people just throw trash over their fence, stuff like that. So the majority of everything up the hill is funneling through that public easement as of right now, and is a large problem for us who own the houses right there.
Is there anything that the city can do, or is that a totally separate issue?
I don't know. I haven't really looked into that much. Oh, you.
John?
We can research whether or not it's a public easement. I'm not aware of a public easement being there, but we can certainly look into that. If it is a public easement, there's probably not a lot we can do. If it's not, then yes, we can look at trying to help the property owner, or at least at the right-of-way, provide some limitations on access through that property.
Thank you.
Commissioner Carroll, please.
Thank you, Chairman. So the homeowners, I guess you would know if it shows as a public easement, maybe on a title report, the people behind the people that spoke. But Mr. Connolly will, I'm sure he'll look into it and get to the bottom of it. It's a very curious situation for sure. But so if we're kind of following how we've been doing these design reviews before.
Start at the end and straight.
Okay.
Mr. Looney, before I start with Mr. Garrettson for comments, do you have one last round before we head up the street here?
Yeah, it's really just to staff. It would be really nice to have a site plan being submitted for preliminary review to be accurate in the location of property boundaries, to where we know that in this case it appears that part of the landscaping might be on someone else's property. Again, even a county parcel map would be helpful, because that's going to show those property boundaries. So that was all. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Carroll again, please.
To address that real quickly, the gentleman that spoke were regarding the easements. I think there were some easements granted in response to some litigation that we had regarding the street alignment, and when this property was purchased and the wall was built and there was some encroachment on the property. So we get the applicants to plot their property boundary as best as we can get them to plot it. We do not do all the research into the easements that affect the property at the time of preliminary review, because there's quite a bit of effort involved in doing that. We typically save that for a formal application when we have a full title report and all of the relative information that we can review against a civil engineer's plan. We're really trying to get to design comments, and I understand the comments that we got tonight, and we'll certainly look into those as part of the application process. But what I want to avoid is having to do an extensive amount of research before an application is even submitted and an applicant even gives us fees, because it's really on our time to try to do that. What we're trying to get is a consensus of, is the project okay to move forward, or are there some seriously wrong problems here that we need to address before we move forward that the applicant can be aware of? So yes, we will look into the property configuration as best we can, but I can't guarantee that we're going to be able to plot every easement that affects the property before it comes forward for preliminary review.
Understood.
Thank you.
Understood. Commissioner Carroll?
I'll just let the comments start from the top and roll down and incorporate mine with my turn.
All right. All right. Mr. Ressler, are you ready for us?
I've been taking notes. I'll continue to do so, yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Garrettson, please.
My comments would relate to number of parking and the impact it's going to have on the neighborhood, when there's already a big problem now. If they don't have sufficient parking for the residents of this area, it's just going to exacerbate the problem. Second, with parking, would be that visibility from Vista Village Drive. You know, if there's going to be a wrought iron fence there, I believe there is one there now, that would prevent people from cutting through, perhaps. And you could keep landscaping there to keep the underside of the cars out of sight. But short of that, I would suggest you have some sort of a structure. My next biggest concern would be the amenities. Some open space basketball court, hockey arena, something that would allow the residents to have something to do rather than hanging out, downtown. And I guess that's it.
Commissioner Looney, please.
Just the issue of putting that structure on the very corner of Palm and Vista Way, and then the space between the structures. That's a big concern. And in the floor plan, just that there's some accommodations for some interior storage area.
Commissioner Fleming.
The landscaping, obviously, the on-site management, I think, is key, and that they have to be truly on top of it, there. The layout of the three-bedroom house and apartments look like, can be adjusted to that. As far as the color, I know that my shoe repair shop, in the years that I worked there, it was pretty bland, the building was, and now it's owned by Liv Gresham, and the art people have gotten there, and I am developing a different lack for variety and color that I didn't used to have. So y'all have done a wonderful job on that, and so I am not as totally opposed to it as long as the neighbors like the idea. That's it for me.
Commissioner Carroll.
Thank you, Chairman. So, Mr. Lee, I like the architecture. I like the materials. I like the roof lines. I like the idea of these ornamental towers of some sort. I think that's all good. And I like the effort you've put into situating these units to develop in these row units to develop some private areas on the patios and decks. And I can see these are pretty good size areas, patio and deck wise. And so I'm although I was asking the question about some community type amenities, I can see that there is some open space use area incorporated into here. My opinion would be to exclude the parking that is at the single family unit from the calculation of the parking for the other units. As was brought up, it's really a standalone unit that shouldn't be getting the benefit of that extra parking in this in the apartment calculations. The front yard setbacks, or the yard setbacks of the building 12, the single family unit, it's scaling out to be about 5 feet, I think, so I'm concerned about that. And the other unit that's right next to that, building 1, is scaling out to about 8 feet, so I'm concerned about that also. And I'll echo Mr. Looney's comments regarding the spacing between some of the buildings. Thank you.
I like it. I love the way that this site was designed. I love your concept with the layering, and I certainly hope that there's more to do. Totally agree that the issue for me is parking, and along with taking out the parking spaces for the 3-bedroom single family, I would say take out those 3 ADA and then do your calculation. Because I agree with Commissioner Looney, we keep counting them, and if we don't have ADA people as residents, then we're cutting ourselves short. Other than that, I love it. Commissioner Jackal, please.
Thank you. On that, I will ask staff if I could, if those ADA spaces are taken out, and then say 2 years later, somebody who needs this space rents.
The calculation.
Oh, okay. All right. Leave them there. Okay. All right. I was worried about that. Okay. Well, I've already said all the things that I really love about it, and I'll continue to do that. I'll give on the roof lines. But I am concerned about the parking, and I am concerned about the amenity, the community common space. And I can't wait to see what you bring back to us. Oh, and the story poles. Don't forget the story poles. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ressler, did you get everything you needed from us?
Yeah, I think I've got all the comments from the Planning Commission. The applicant's here. He's taken notes as well, and we'll take that, and he can revise his plans accordingly to accommodate the concerns of the Planning Commission.
Perfect. At this time, we'll take a 5-minute break, and we'll take the students, bring up your completed forms, and we will sign them. Thank you.
Yeah, well, like I said, tomorrow morning I'll... Yeah. I can do corner in my front yard. It's, and I'm not sure. Some of their questions, my presentation I'm going to do.
Yeah, no, my only purpose, I have no slides.
No, I know they get limited amount of experience. It's more of a...
Oh, sorry. This is my worst case scenario. What I can do is you go to get down to 1 feet. I want to have some separation. Get down to 1 foot. You can bring these over. This is like, I mean, I've got one of these things built in here. Yeah, I would.
No, my pleasure, John. Oh, okay, you're the face behind the name. I've seen on my email. Very good. Very good. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
We'll see how we
On the right, you can go right through the center. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, went right through, and then basically
I've seen
this way.
I've seen that.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's good.
My house is 20. Mine's that one right there. Second one up. That used to be Williamson Street. Cut down next to Village Cafe.
Hey guys.
Did you see when you saw our video of the crashing, the thermal flash bomb? It was so cool. And it was kind of scary.
Well, and it does sort of affect the setbacks there too. So
we had a crowd gather.
I don't think he was seeing it.
Not at this point. I know you were feverishly writing notes. I'm assuming you're going to put together some kind of.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'll put something together. Yeah.
Again, Michael, thank you so much. Thank you, Doug.
I want to say, because the easement thing, which I wanted to interrupt for, the people that own that piece of property, they have. No, I heard that if it's 5 years and they cross it, that it makes it unless the owner put up a. So you just go on the law side and then public easement and try to find all the
There could be an issue that
You ready? All right. Mr. Connolly, are you ready to lead us through P15-0677, the early design review?
Yes, I am, Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. This is a project proposal to develop 24 condominium units on an approximately 0.96 acre site that's located on the north end of Santa Anita Drive, on the east side of the street, directly adjacent to the car wash that's located at 980 South Santa Fe. The site is currently developed with a surface parking lot and driveway that was intended to serve the adjacent property to the east, which is developed with a gymnasium at 1010 South Santa Fe. The project area is shown here in the overhead, surrounded by a red line. This is the parking lot and the driveway access that takes access to 1010 from South Santa Fe Avenue. As mentioned, it's developed with a paved surface parking lot, lighting, and what used to be landscaping on the site. Surrounding uses from the property to the north are single-family residential homes located upslope, approximately 30 to 40 feet above the street elevation, about 25 to 30 feet above the lower level lot. To the east is the gymnasium that was mentioned at 1010 South Santa Fe, and commercial buildings past that to the southeast. To the south is the commercial car wash, which is shown here on the left in Santa Anita Drive, heading out to South Santa Fe. And to the west is a commercial shopping center. It's the Vaughn Center and the surrounding stores that are part of that commercial retail center. The general plan land use designation on the site is mixed use, allows commercial or residential up to 40 dwelling units per acre. The zoning is within the downtown specific plan, is in the south gateway. It allows up to 3 stories in height with a maximum density of 30 dwelling units per acre. The project proposes 24 condominium units, a mix of 2 and 3 bedroom units, 12 2-bedroom and 12 3-bedroom. The parking ratios are shown here on the slide at 2.25 per unit for a 2-bedroom and 2.75 per unit for a 3-bedroom. There's a requirement of 60 spaces, and there are 60 spaces provided by the applicant. The site plan generally wraps around a central corridor that takes access off the driveway that is an easement for the adjacent property. So you can drive into the center of the complex and service the garages that are tucked underneath the units. The architecture proposes a Mediterranean design, 3 stories ranging from 32 to 36 feet in height from the base of the structure, with tuck-under parking on the first level and residential units above. There are tower elements with pyramid hip roofs scattered throughout the design in order to break up the massing of the structure, as well as some articulation of the building walls and different treatments along the facades as shown. Private amenities include private yards for each of the units, as well as common landscape areas and pedestrian walkways. The materials and finishes that are proposed include a stucco exterior, stained wood trim and garage doors, as well as entry doors, window surrounds, wrought iron balconies, and white color with sage accent. And I provided a copy of the material sample board that the developer provided. Also to note, there are several steps of this project built into the side of the hill because of the topography of the property. So on the street side and the driveway side, you will see 3-story elevations, but on the back side of the property, on the north end, you'll see more of a 1 to 2-story elevation as the project drops down the hill. The applicant, Bill Gooden, is available here this evening to answer any questions that the commission may have. As we mentioned before, the purpose tonight is to provide an opportunity for you and the public to review the design and provide comments and direction to the applicant. And with that, I am available for any questions that the commission may have. Thank you.
Any questions of staff? Commissioner Garrettson.
Mr. Conley, it seems that the only amenities are a backyard for each one, and that if kids wanted to get together from this community, the only place they have to go are to the commercial buildings, and not to the, let's see, north or behind these, there's a fence. There's a fence to the south by the car wash. So basically, they're going to have to go across the street, and the only place they can gather would be the shopping center. Is that correct?
There are no common amenities in the project other than private yards. I did have an extensive discussion with the applicant about that issue. I'm sure he'll be available to address his perspective on that this evening.
Okay, that's all I have now.
Mr. Gooden, do you have an actual presentation for us this evening, or? Come on up.
I guess it's good to go by number two sometimes. Appreciate your time tonight. Because some of the things that came up on the earlier applicant affect our project.
Sure.
Looking at the site plan, one of the things I want to bring into attention is that when you're standing on Santa Anita, the element that is directly above Santa Anita is a two-story element. The three-story element doesn't occur until you get inside the project adjacent to the center drive. Same thing, actually almost everywhere you're looking, from the outside looking in, it's all two-story. We have a very sloping site. It's not only a major right to left, it's a front to aft. So I mean, no matter where you look on this site, there's slopes. So to build into the slopes, kind of Santorini type look, we did the garages on the first level, and then if you're inside our project, you'll have a two-story townhome above that. But behind that garage is a stepped elevation up one story. So it builds into the hill. So when you're looking from the gym, from the residential neighborhood, or from Santa Anita, you're only looking at a two-story element, which I think is a benefit because you don't get that mass on the street. So once you're in the project, it is 3 stories, which is within the guidelines. I'll take a short period to describe what we did here. I've been doing this a long time, cut my teeth on condominiums and single family. The last 10 years, I've been doing more big custom homes. I probably, you don't want to say you're over, but I brought a lot of the elements that I have used in very large major homes into this project to try to bring top quality in. I mean, custom wrought iron work, clay tile roofs, stained grade doors with hardware, and I think that when it's done, it'll have the quality that I believe you're trying to bring into the downtown area. The other thing is, so we have a classic design, stucco, Santa Barbara look. We worked around a family design. I've sold probably more condominiums than I want to be responsible for because they're always a source of someone coming after you. But the concept that I've found that people want, and it's a little in direct response to what the question asked to John, we find that people want to have their own living space. If I'm going to go barbecue, if I was living here, I was going to go barbecue, I don't personally want to walk across down to a common area and barbecue and walk my steaks back and sit down there and have a beer in the common area. So I know that your guidelines have gotten to where you want that space for the kids. I understand that's an important element. When I originally designed the project, we were because of the open space requirement, we were leaving that all of those backyards areas, one big open space with some patios. But really, if I was going to try to sell these things, which I will be, I would prefer to sell them as backyards. We can certainly take a section of that and make it common. We could take some of the backyard space and come up with some 2 common areas. If it's important, we can do that. As I say, I'm trying to sell like a single-family resident. You don't have the standard single-family resident doesn't have a common area in their project. They've got their own backyard. They got their garages. So if you have a big enough backyard, your kids play in your backyard. So that's kind of just a matter of what's important to everyone as far as design this thing. The garage situation is everyone has at least a 1-car garage. Almost everybody's got a 2-car garage. Some have a single-car garage and open parking. As far as the ADA requirements, because it is a multi-story townhome, the ADA requirements, technically we only need 1 unit to be ADA compliant. What we have right now, and I'm working out with building, is trying to decide how to finish this. We have 1 van open space, which is required, and we have 3 units right now that have direct entry private garages that can be sold as ADA units. So you actually have the van space and 3 additional spaces, but they are attached to the garage, so, to the unit itself, so it wouldn't be a problem with overburdening the parking for some. It's 2 garages or an ADA situation for those 3 units. So when we did our count, the ADA is counted in there, but the van, we really only have 1 space that would be kind of double dipping, so to speak, because the garages go directly with the units. I think it's, I've been doing this a long time, and I think you could find this in Santa Barbara, you could find this in La Jolla. It's a classic project. It's not modern. It's not contemporary. It's classic. It's something that would sell anywhere in California, I believe, up and down the coast. So other than that, there was one other question. I had talked to John earlier, and we had one of the neighbors was concerned about the height of the unit from her backyard. And I did a little, I don't have a scale, but I did a basically what happens is the highest the flat roof would be a 424 elevation. The highest that these elements we have, these tower elements, would be a 428 elevation. Her feet would be at 430 and eyes at 435. So we're not coming up above her lowest point of her property. And we are providing one other benefit is that we're, I guess, knocking out a lot. I don't live there, so I'm not aware of this, but the neighbors have been telling me that we're knocking out a lot of noise that is being created by the car wash. So we will have to do some kind of sound attenuation along that area. I didn't show on the plans, but it's come up. So combination of fencing, walls, and landscaping. Landscaping isn't a great sound attenuation. It just helps whatever you put up for sound attenuation not to look so barren. So I don't know if there's anything, this is kind of reverse development, if there's anything we can do from the city's point of view to help with the sound attenuation in that area, because one of the neighbors talked to tonight has said that she's very unhappy with the noise, which I will solve her problem, but I will be inheriting it, which is what, if anything, can be done about the car wash situation. I think what we're doing in the area is a plus. I mean, I've got a car wash right next to me. I've got an older shopping center on the one side of the street, and I think we're bringing some new life and I think quite artistic looking building to the neighborhood. But I'm sure there'll be some things that everyone has a belief in that we can improve. So would you like me to stay up here and answer some questions?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a couple questions for you. Mr. Mr. Carroll, please.
Thank you, Chairman. The backs of these condos that are along Santa Anita,
right.
They have this private open space, and then there's another few feet, and then there's the wrought iron fence. Am I reading that correctly?
Because the way the ordinance reads, we're supposed to have no more than a 42-inch high wall on the street there. I've designed a 42-inch wall, and then we have a chunk of landscaping, and then we have the fence set back so that it can be somewhat mitigated with landscaping. So the other choice was to may give you a bigger backyard was to put the wrought iron fence right on top of the wall, but now with the 42-inch wall and a 36-inch fence, which actually, as long as you're over 30 inches, needs to go to 42 now, you might have a fairly tall structure right on Santa Anita. So I set that back 4 or 5 feet so that we could end up with a big landscaping strip between the wall and the wrought iron fencing.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I just want to make sure I was understanding what that was. So there is that small wall, and then there's some more landscaping in front of the wall, landscaping above the wall, and then the fence for the private area.
Originally, I had the fence on top of the wall, but because it can kind of be considered part of that 42-inch situation, I know it's open air and so on, it'll look better for the project to step it back.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
My next question is the path of travel here by the entrance. You have coming along the south side of those units and then crossing the drive and then coming back down to the public street. It seems, I don't know, it seems like that would just go down to the sidewalk on this adjacent to those units and then cross.
Originally, all that landscaping on the south side of the project there was on the other side of the street, and we recently moved it over there. I can take that sidewalk, as you say, skip that, take it directly down to the sidewalk and have the entrance not have a up, over, and up, just a straight up the sidewalk situation.
It's just something to think about, that it seems that if somebody's turning that corner and coming in, they're maybe not going to be expecting someone to be crossing there, whereas at the sidewalk they are. I don't know.
All it did was provide more landscaping on the south side of the building, but honestly, the original work done with my architect, we had it coming straight down, as you say, directly into the public sidewalk, and that would not be a problem to reconfigure.
I'm guessing that there was going to be people eventually, whether they're just coming over for a party or whatever, that would end up parking along Santa Anita Place, right. And I think that's fine. It's not being utilized for anything else. And have you given any consideration about making a pedestrian connection from there up into the units in the area of this van accessible parking?
Are you talking about for ADA?
No, not ADA. Just it would be steps, I realize, in between those units from the north end of Santa Anita.
There are limitations on that because if you have a stairway, you have to provide a disabled access point that's in a comparable area. So in other words, the disabled access that you provide on the south end of the property probably wouldn't be sufficient to allow for a stairway there and have a comparable access that's accessible. You'd have to probably build a pathway that a disabled person could take up to that point if you put a stairway in there.
Okay. That's all I have at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Looney, please.
Thank you. I know it's a preliminary design review, so a couple of issues. The grading. When I look at the topo lines that are on the site plan, you've got some issues with grades, and it doesn't look like a grading plan has been done because some of these lines are shown as dashed, which means they're being moved. But in the parking area between 5 and 13 along the south border, from the
5 and 13.
They're riding through here? Yeah, the parking spaces. So from the back of the parking space to the front of the parking space, we're changing 2, 4, 6, 8 feet. There's a vertical change of 8 feet shown on the plan that has been submitted. So okay, but if I look at the topo lines from the back of that parking area to the front of the parking area, so it drops 8 feet in a matter of, 18 to 20 feet. That's a really steep slope to park a vehicle on. That's my point. There's some grading issues that need to be done.
Everything from those parking spaces to the north has hundreds of point lines that all the grading has been done. As far as that section goes, that's a good comment. I
Yeah, I'm just
Take a look.
responding to what I
No,
see
I see
on my
what, I
site
see you're
plan.
talking about. There's a lot of close topo lines there. You're
Yeah,
correct.
and those represent 2-foot elevation changes.
Right.
So I think that needs to be looked at, or a site plan with new topography lines.
What'll happen is you're going to have a lot of little retaining walls. Every 1 or 2 parking spots, you're going to have some kind of retaining wall, because you can see the topo lines are quite a bit farther apart on the drive itself, because obviously the drive's right there, it works.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So this will require some side retaining walls to accommodate each one of those turns. I agree.
And we also
we haven't really gotten that. That's the one section we don't have nearly as much time in the grading as this one little section through here.
But this site requires to design it. You got to design it with the grading. I mean, we can put buildings on top of it, but because of the slope, it needs to be looked at from a grading perspective.
Every point topo line in here was thought of as far as access into the garages and the carports, et cetera.
Okay, let's take example. You've got a plan in front of you?
I do.
Parking space number 5.
You talking on the far right, the open spaces?
That's on the south property line, closest to the car wash.
All that, everything from the driveway to the south, that part will need some more design. We haven't spent much time on that. We spent most of our time on the structures themselves.
Okay, then let's go. I don't want to belabor the point, but I just want to make my point.
No, that's good.
The spaces between the building number 1 and building number 2. We've got approximately 37 feet between structures at the maximum dimension. This drawing shows me, again, that there's 8 feet of difference of pad elevation between the structures. So again, we're
Not
changing
true.
8 feet.
Look at the point elevation. You got 382 and 384. There's a 2-foot pad elevation on the side slope on that street there.
Well, I'm looking at grade line 382, where we have a 37-foot 6-inch dimension. Okay, it shows 382. If I'm going 4 more lines up, that topo line is 390.
You have to go by the point elevations. Like if you start on building 1, you got 382, 384, 384, 384, 386. Across the street, you got 384, 5, 385, 387. Those are controlling right now the point.
Okay, then what's really confusing me is you put topo lines on a site that don't apply any longer.
These are the original. This is the original topo. Yeah.
And that comes back to my other point, because on the left side of the development, north side of building 1 and number 2, you've shown some topography lines that are dashed. So that's where I'm getting confused, because I'm seeing topo lines that are new, and I'm seeing topo lines that are being modified, and really it probably would have been better not to put them on.
Truly, the whole engineering portion of this site was done with point elevation. So the topo lines will have to match the point elevations. The point elevations control. There's hundreds of point elevations on here. So that was the way we determined whether we could get enough levelness into the parking spots to be able to drive in, drive out, get in and out of the garages. It's all with the point elevation.
Okay.
So kind of, I don't want to say disregard the topo lines, but it was done. This is the original topo overlaid on the topo, and it was done through point elevation. So we'll have to get the topo. We'll have to get the lines to go through there and be changed. This, as I say, you can spend a lot of calculating this building out to find ways to get in all these garages when you got side slope and front slope. The easiest way of doing it was was work with the point elevation. So kind of.
And that's why I prefaced the whole thing. I know it's preliminary.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I appreciate that, but I'm just saying, because you look at that garage, you'll see 384.5. In the back, we actually have that carport area sloping up, because what we're trying to do is minimize the size of the back wall. So it's all been, The lines haven't been readjusted to match the point elevations, but your point's well taken, and we will make sure that occurs as part of the grading. But the point elevations work, and they were used. And the other point was that we used them for the ADA access because we didn't want to use the driveway for ADA. It made no sense, so we opened up that corridor in the middle of Building 1, and there's a lot of ADA rules you got to adhere to. I mean, you can go up to 8%, 8.3% if you have a handrail, and otherwise that's 5%, 2% side slope. There's a lot of pieces, so as I say, point elevations work for us, so we'll get the lines to match.
Okay.
But we didn't do, I'll be honest with you, there wasn't a lot of time spent on this parking over here, and it needs to be, it's a good point, it needs to be addressed and make sure that we can make it all, you got the driveway that works, you got to get the parking to match it.
Right. Yeah. We've got some interior corridors that are at 8% slope. I believe isn't at an 8% slope, we need a ramp at every 12 or 15 feet. I mean, a landing at every 12 or 15 feet.
I don't think it's ever 12 to 15 feet. You do have to have a landing. I don't remember the distance is, but you have to have a rail. And we do have, well...
Again, this is just on Building 1, in that corridor between the garage and the living units.
The engineer missed that section because wherever the garage doors are, that's level. Because no more than 2% there, because you have to be able to get... Those garages are actually part of your handicap accessibility, so you have to have a 2% side slope. So I did notice you're correct. You have that 8% goes to actually 2%, then back to 8%. So there's about 3 access points in there from the garage that cuts across into the unit, and that can't have more than a 2% slope. So that will be properly drawn. It's I drew it that way, but he put it all at 8%.
Again,
he missed it. So
I know it's preliminary.
No, but you're right. But I'm well aware of the ADA rules, and 2% side slope's the best I can do. So I know we have 2 or 3 ramps in that little area anyway, just because you have to be able to count the garage as an ADA garage. You have to have access from your unit to the garage, and it has to have no more than a 2% side slope. So I know that there's 3 areas in there that are 2%. And they're 3 by 3 minimum. So,
building number 1.
Yes, sir.
On the west elevation, it's on sheet A1.0, but I think it's labeled as east elevation.
My architect, I talked to him this morning, he goes, please tell everyone that the colored elevations are correct. The black and white, he said exactly the same as I got east instead of west.
When I look at that west elevation, and then when I go to the floor plan on sheet A4, I really don't see in the plan these offsets that are shown in elevation. Because when I look at level 1 and level 2, they're flat walls in plan.
You're correct. We have to build the offsets in on the, yeah.
Because that occurs in other structures, but this was the easiest to bring to note.
Without those offsets, the whole elevation kind of falls apart, so it has to go in there, but it's the question of how deep we make them, and we worked really hard on the elevations, and those offsets were added, and we didn't go back and revise the plans accordingly.
I just don't want it to look like the building uphill.
Yeah, you mean the backside, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, no, the one on the adjacent property.
Oh, you mean the big box?
Yeah. Because when I look at the plan, that's what the plan shows, but your elevation shows some delineation, and that's what I'm looking forward to seeing is those wall elevations delineated as it's portrayed on the exteriors and not on the floor plan.
Not just that, I don't even think you would want to see a hip roof elevation with clay tile on it that was a flat elevation that just stuck up above the roof, it would have no reason for being there. So I agree 100%. Agree 100%.
And just one last comment. Just pay close attention to your roof lines and your overall building height, because there's a lot of uniformity there in the heights. There's a rhythm there that if you could break it up, much like what is shown on your south elevation on sheet A10 at the bottom of the sheet, where we're looking northward, that's a great elevation. And if we could begin to carry some of that feel and some of that emotion with the varying heights back around on that west elevation, then I think you got a great project going.
You know, I think it's going to happen. Hopefully the elevation is represented. I think it's going to happen naturally anyway, because we have, as you come around the corner into our drive, the center drive, we have almost a 6-foot elevation change between that building. So we have to do it, even if we didn't want to do it. So we're going to end up, it should, like if we look at the east elevation of number 1, it should be showing some articulation. Well, it shows it, but it's not maybe as much as you'd like to see. But you see the east elevation of building 1, you can see that everything's kind of, that's the west elevation. You're right. It's confusing.
I understand your intent.
Yes, right.
And again, since these become documents, so to speak, that we're making
decisions on,
opinions on, and decisions on, if we can tweak the drawings a little bit more to make them look like the exteriors, I think we're in great shape.
I agree with you. I think that it happened naturally. I mean, if we had had a flat site, it would probably been one roof line with these pop-ups. But now we have to accommodate, as these garages rise, we have the flat roof line is changing by necessity, so it's going to actually help our elevations. I think. Yeah.
That's all.
Appreciate it. Gosh, you're easier on me.
Commissioner Carroll, please.
I can wait if you have speakers you want to get to.
Oh, okay.
I can hold off.
Ernie Silveria? Nope, got to come up. State your name and give your address, please.
Yes, my name's Ernie Silveria. I'm at 1234. One of the houses that's actually on just right behind Building 3, west side there. Yeah, one of our concerns was just the overall building height elevation, finish elevation, and I think Mr. Is it Goodin? Did I pronounce that correctly?
Goodwin with no W.
Goodwin. Goodin.
No,
okay, Goodin
no w.
with no W. Appreciate that. Makes it easy.
Maybe I showed it to them, but I didn't see it. You can kind of see what's going on there. So.
Okay, so this is our grade right here, finished rough.
You're at 430.
We're at 430,
and the highest point of the flat roof is 424, and the highest point of these little popped up hip sections is 428.
Okay.
And if you're standing, 435.
Wow, okay.
There's nothing comes up, nothing. Even the pop-ups don't come up.
Nice, beautiful.
And as you walk away from your site, as we've been talking, it starts walking downhill a little bit anyway. So this is the most critical section right up in your corner.
Do you have any concerns of the car wash maybe devaluing the property or making it difficult to sell the property?
Come on up, please, Mr. Gooden. That way it's all on the tape.
Yes, I do. I'm not sure this is where we can get it fixed, but it would be nice to know that if it's a problem, that it can be attended. I don't know.
Maybe maybe what we could do is find some way to absorb some of that sound from the car wash, because I think personally, I'm just going to keep this brief. I think it's a beautiful homes, condos. I think it fits right in the community, right in California. I mean, I'd love to see them there. I'm hoping, it's attractive. We've seen those lots just being bare for so many years, and a lot of people just come in there and just play games and trash it up. I clean that area. I personally go there and clean those lots up. by myself. You could look at probably some of the video over the years. I go out there regularly. I'm cleaning up, picking up trash, throw it in the garbage. So I'm going to be glad to see something planted and something looking nice out there. See if I had any other questions. I think the biggest thing is is that car wash is going to can be an issue to keep whether these condos are going to sell and sell for the price point that he's looking to get, and then find some way to get the sound absorbed, or maybe ask the car wash people or give them some money or something so they could make it a more self-contained unit. Like a lot of them, you go, this is a pretty noisy car wash. And literally, I'll be honest with you guys, I filed my first noise complaint. We've lived at this residence for 14 years. I literally did file my first complaint and requesting the results yet to hear back from them because of the noise. They haven't been greasing the bearings, and we listed our house was going to sell, and we couldn't sell our house because of the noise, but we said, hey, it's probably a blessing in disguise. So we're staying, but the blower motor is extremely loud on that car wash, so it's going to make it tough to sell those units. So something there needs to be addressed. So, honey, is there anything else you need to talk? Any questions you have? Okay. One more?
You have to come up.
Come on up.
Sign a speaker slip before you leave tonight, please. State your name, please.
Oh, Macy Silveria.
Thank you.
I wanted to know, we live in the property directly north, and how many feet is it from our property line to the retaining wall or the building that's going to be closest to our property line? How far is that? Is that 5 feet, 10 feet? You know where I mean.
Yeah, we need you on the microphone, please.
This is 25 feet right here, so that's...
I'm talking about from this property line to this building.
Pretty close to 25 feet, I would say.
20 feet.
About 20, 25 feet.
So it's right up there. I just wanted to look at this. Can someone explain this to me real fast?
This is the flat part of the building. This is the popped up roof tile area. This is the slope. This would be your elevation, 430. That's your patio elevation at 430. So the highest approximately highest that the flat roof would come would be 424. This is in that critical corner close to where you are.
Right.
And then so you got 6 feet on that. We do have these pop outs that occur, and they have little ridge points on them, so they're like little mountains out there. They go up to 428. So you'll still be...
So with our 5-foot fence...
Yeah, oh yeah. If you got a 5-foot fence,
So if I'm sitting on the patio, I'm not going to be looking at these rooftops? That's my...
No, you couldn't see that. No, if your eyes are at 5 feet, you won't be able to see anything because
Okay.
you're going to be looking straight out into the sunset, so to speak.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Commissioner Carroll?
Well, I'm ready to toss it up to the top of the line if that's what you want to do. That's fine with me.
Go ahead. Commissioner Garrettson, please. Just come right down the line.
I would have two concerns. One would be amenities. With this many condominiums, there's going to be a lot of teenagers. And where are they going to hang out? In their backyard? Not when I was a teenager. They're going to hang out in the shopping center, so that would be a concern. The other thing is it looks like if you're going from Santa Anita Place and walking into this, there's no walkway and after you get past Building 1. So everybody that walks in or out of this is walking through traffic. with no walkways?
Mr. Gooden, we need you at the mic.
We have garages that back into the common driveway, and the garages back into garages. So there's a 4 foot area behind the garages, which is a walkway, but it also you have garages. So you have vehicles that would be backing up there. So if you see that area, it's crosshatched. It's just to the east of Building 1. That's technically a walkway, but you've got multiple garages there. So if someone's backing their car out, they're driving over that particular crosshatch area. Same thing over on the other side. You've got basically carports all along there. So getting from your unit to your garage is direct.
But if I'm walking in to visit somebody, there is no walkway.
Well, you'll be parking in one of the guest spots probably.
Well, if I parked on Santa Anita.
Correct.
And I'm going to walk up to visit somebody.
Right.
There is no walkway. You're literally walking where traffic goes.
I think this goes to your point of adding taking the walkway straight down to the
We
street.
talked about that, but if we're on the same. Right now, we come up over that crosshatched area, and we come up moving the sidewalk over so that it enters directly from the sidewalk on Santa Anita. See that's what we have right now. We're going to move that all the way to the left and come straight up from Santa Anita so you can walk up into the.
What when I get past this building, one,
Oh, you're talking about
then I'm
here.
on my own. There is no.
Up here.
Well, you have to cross, just like in a shopping center. You have to
Is
cross the
there a crosswalk up there or a sidewalk?
That
or
crosshatch area is the sidewalk going up there.
and that goes up there.
Yes.
And if I want to go this way,
You walk, there's a crosshatch area in front of these garages, but that,
You want to use the pointer?
well,
Press the red button there in the middle. Right up top there in the middle, there's a red button.
you're making my point that it's a dangerous situation. There's no place for people to walk that's not going to be in traffic. And you have how many parking spots over here? 1, 2, 3, 15. So you could have 15 cars coming and going while people are walking the same place the cars are coming and going. Correct?
That design does not keep you from having, does not have a protected walkway where there's no potential cars like that. You're talking about a car backing up.
You keep making my point that the design makes it a very dangerous situation. That anybody that's walking, that is not coming from their car into the condo, anybody that's walking around the condominium, they're walking basically where people are pulling out of garages and there are people coming and going. So there's no...
This design has been done many, many times. This is the way it happens when you have garages back to back garages. It's just the way it's done. I mean, if you got a site that's very steep sloping, you've got garages that are solving the problem, and I've built this project before without having something similar to this, without having a common circular walkway all around the project. You're using part of your sidewalk is actually part of your driving surface if you're using the garage. It's just the way the design is.
That to me would be unacceptable. It's just a severe safety hazard, in my opinion, but we'll move on.
Well, okay.
Any other comments, Commissioner Garrettson, before we move on to Commissioner Looney?
Thank you. A couple of comments on the same sheet, or on the same drawing. This parking space here will literally have to back up the full distance here before it can turn around, because there's not enough room for it to make a three-point turn. We also have these planters that are at the demising walls of the garage that really impede that vehicle from backing straight up. So as that vehicle is backing up out of that garage, they're going to have to turn their wheels to the left to bypass the planter, but their bumper is going to hit the left side of the door jamb.
Planters probably articulate too far into the drive. I think the planters can be eliminated.
Okay. Even if it isn't eliminated, I still have to back up the full length of that before I can move in a forward direction. And we have the same situation at this parking area. Except there we have a building that I have to go around. Those two parking spaces would really cause me grief if I owned those units. Okay? I think some attention needs to be paid to that. And then one last item, in this corner over here, and it may be the setback, but that building structure is 6 feet 6 inches off the property line. Typically, a rear yard setback is a little bit larger than that, but maybe there's been an exception made.
You're right. It should be. I think the rear. I don't have it with me. The rear yard setback that's a side yard setback. And I don't remember if it's 5 or 10 feet.
It's 5 feet.
Yeah, okay. But the parking issues, those two parking stalls, I think they're going to create a problem for the owner of those two units.
Would you suggest leaving them and just adding 2 parking spots, or eliminating them altogether?
Maybe you eliminate the garage, but I think you need the parking.
No, I mean, leave it as a garage, but add 2 more parking spots that would, still use it. I mean, it's not the best garage, but it would be, I'd rather have, well, I don't know. It's a good question. I understand. Those two.
I just think they're going to be a problem backing out of those. Okay. It's easy to get in. And I've seen many tract homes designed and built with 3-car garages. 2 are very easily accessible. But the third one, unless you drive a Mini Cooper, you're not going to get out of the third garage. Okay. if you've got a 5-foot side yard setback, move that building over to 5 feet. That gains you 1.5 feet. I mean, just push it to the limits. I mean, that's why they're there.
Right. Okay. Good suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fleming.
Thank you. I think the parking is the look of the building is great. I like the variations in height, but I think the parking, and I don't know how to suggest a difference in it, because I understand what Commissioner Garrison's talking about with the people having to walk behind, that's just the way it is, you know. And I understand that, and I also understand what Commissioner Looney is talking about here. Those two spots that he highlighted, honestly, I missed those when I was looking at this. That is a really inconvenient and possibly accident waiting to happen. I mean, somebody's going to back out of there and cut the fender or something. So I would think that those two specific ones, if you could find another way to park those two and not use those, because those just, or maybe you could figure a way to use those, work them into some sort of open area, you know, common ground or something, and then find two other spots. I don't know what the answer is.
No, I think it's a good suggestion. What I'm going to do is I'm going to meet with Belden to see if I can flip-flop those two garages and move the ADA van to the other side. Now, that one spot for sure has been solved. The one in the back, we either eliminated or just not counted in our parking. I agree that's
So anyway, that's the only thoughts I had on it. Other than that, I think it's, as I looked at it while I was out there the other day, the idea that it's going to sit down in there and it's going to not block a bunch of people and you can still have the height, that's cool. So I'm done. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Commissioner Carroll, please.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. So you're building it into the slope. That's good. I think the architecture is fine. I don't really have any issues with the project. I think this parking, these lots 5 through 13, I think that's just an oversight due to time or whatever reason. I think to carry out those contours from that drive area is just going to force you to have a retaining wall along that south property line, would be my guess, but that's easy enough. And yeah, this issue with the safety of pedestrians coming in, I think this is very typical design. We all park our cars at the grocery store and we walk up the drive next to the drive lane behind the cars, and apartment complexes and condo complexes where we have parking stalls and carports, and we're parking on one side of the parking lot and walking to the other to get where we want to go. This is all very common, and I would really hate to see us get bogged down in something that I think is a very common practice and design. So I don't have any issues I personally don't have any issues with that. And then that's all I have to say.
Thank you. My issue is with the parking. I don't see any identified visitor parking included in the calculation. So the calculations here appear that you have sufficient parking spots for all of the residents, but nothing for visitors. Aesthetically, it's beautiful. I think it'll be gorgeous. It'll really enhance the area, and I like your color scheme.
Well, the parking does account for 0.25 guest parking. 2.5 for the 3 bedrooms, which is 2.5 times 12 is 30, and then we have 2 for the 2 bedrooms, which is 54.
That says 2.75 for
So
the,
these numbers include the guest parking.
Okay,
So
okay.
0.25 per unit
Got
is
it.
a guest space.
Oh, yeah, they added the guest space in, so instead of 2.5 plus a quarter on the backside, they showed us 2 3/4.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that's my comment. Commissioner Jackal, please.
Thank you. I too like the architecture and the colors and all of that. I'm glad to have the visitor parking explained because that was on my list of concerns. I am very concerned about the common open space for kids to play in. Otherwise, they're going to be hanging out where they're not supposed to be, and that's not a good thing. And the other thing, I've tried to look at the elevations, and as Commissioner Looney, I think, pointed out, they don't match the floor plans, and I just want to be sure there are no blank walls facing the public anywhere.
I spent a lot of time building houses that look great, and I would never do that. It's all articulated, lots of windows, lots of wrought iron. I believe that elevations make a project, and I would not do that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Including the elevations that will be facing the Silverias, they will.
Well, that's the two-story elevation you see that would be.
So their rear elevations?
Those elevations right there would be
Okay.
what you'd be looking at from their side, right?
Okay, what about when the elevations facing Santa Anita Place?
Two-story on the first bank of buildings, and then that would be, see building number 1, west elevation up there?
Yes. Okay, that's good, thank you.
I think what we'll do is ask the applicant to prepare some street view elevations for the public hearing.
That would be very good. Thank you.
Mr. Gooden, Mr. Conley, did you get everything from us that you need? Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank
Great,
you so
thank
much.
Appreciate your time.
All right.
I'm glad you like the elevations. It's a labor of love having these things look good, so I think it'll be a nice look.
Good. Thank you very much. All right. Commission, staff discussion, council actions, and reports.
So we will have a meeting on the 3rd of November. We have 3 items on the agenda tentatively: Ridge Road annexation, the Starbucks at Civic Center Drive and Phillips Street, and ordinance that will revise our landscape guidelines per the state mandated changes that were adopted. A couple of items to report back on. On the 13th of October, the City Council heard a request for a general plan amendment for the property at 1630 South Melrose. It's the existing Christ Science Church that is proposed to be amended to mixed use to allow for a 3-story condominium development. The majority of the council supported the request with some parking concerns, so they were asked to meet our citywide parking standards instead of the mixed use zone standards because they're somewhat lower. And so the applicant is back at the drawing board revising their plan to come back in with a project that shows some additional parking. They will be coming forward for early design review. I don't know that all of those parking issues will be addressed in their early design review, but just to note, it was one of the comments that the council made. Also on the 13th, we agreed on a proposal process to pick a tattoo shop for the downtown. So we'll be releasing a request for proposals and allow any interested applicants to submit. We'll have an internal selection committee that will include a couple council members, someone from the chamber, and a number of city staff that will make a recommendation that will go back to the council for selection of someone to process a special use permit and come before the commission. And then the last thing is we are working on our parking standards, as I think I mentioned before. On the 18th of November, we're planning to hold a public meeting, which will be in the community room here. So to get input from the public on concerns they have about parking and the process that we're undertaking in revising our standards. And so if you know anyone that might be interested in that, feel free to let them know the date. That's all the updates I have.
Thank you. Any comments? Commissioner Carroll.
Mr. Conley, was that Palm property, what I have it stuck in my head that was the skate park property at one time?
It was reviewed for the skate park site. We actually looked at the property on the east side of the street because there's two lots there that the city owns. So we've had a couple different proposals for that property, but we scrapped that site as a skate park. Based on the council's direction, there were a lot of concerns from the neighboring property owners, and we're now doing them on North Santa Fe.
Yeah.
And we expect to go back to council on the 8th of December with a construction contract for the two sites that were selected.
Great.
Is the gym adjacent to the project we just, DR2, is the gym still viable? Is
Viable how?
open, doing business?
Yes, it is actually open. I believe they have some limited services in there. They do some yoga classes and some other allowances, but they are operating.
Okay. Commissioner Garrettson, please.
Yeah, last meeting, I had raised the question about the water district and how much water we're using. And it was based on a 2011 report. And I think you, Mr. Connolly, talked about them doing it every 5 years. Well, I called them, and they actually sent me a report that I'll share with you that showed that we're actually using less water now than we were in 1992. So our water use in the city of Vista has actually been level or gone down, which made me feel really good about answering questions about how can we keep approving apartments when we have a drought. So I'll share those numbers, but it's really quite remarkable. And it was explained to me that it's because of more efficient use of, toilets and et cetera, irrigation. And so I just thought I'd report on that it's amazing to me that all this building that's taken place since 1992, and we're actually using less water than we were before. I'll share that report with you.
It's incredible. Commissioner Looney, please.
Thank you. Curiosity, on South Santa Fe, there is a structure that was burned
Yes.
several weeks ago. And is there some policy that requires an owner to remove a burned structure within a certain time frame?
No. What is allowed is that, what typically happens, and you've probably seen this with Frizzy Paint down on Hacienda, they had a burn and they were sitting there for a long, long time. Typically, the owners have to wait for the insurance company to come in and evaluate it and provide them a settlement in order to rebuild the structure. There's also a fair amount of time that it takes to investigate the fire and determine its cause, and if it was arson related, there's an investigation that goes on. So there's quite a bit of work that occurs before the developer or the owner is allowed to either demolish it or rebuild it, and that's still being undertaken with respect to the South Santa Fe building. I know that there's an investigation that's ongoing, and I know that the owner is still working with the insurance company on a settlement, so it could be some time before that occurs. However, once we do have confirmation that occurs, we can move forward with code enforcement to try to get them to demolish the structure if there's an abatement issue. But there's usually a fair amount of time, on the order of 3 to 6 months, that can pass by before they have to take any action with respect to rebuilding it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, seeing no more lights.
One more thing I wanted to mention. I talked to the Oceanside about the project on South Melrose near Cannon. It is a retail project. It has been approved. They have issued a grading permit, but they have not gotten to building permits yet. So they could grade the property and wait, but there's no indication of when construction is going to start. I asked them to give me an update once that occurs.
I think we're adjourned now. Thank you.